Welcome inside the Fox Weather ROWI Report. This is a bonus episode coming at you. We got week 6 of NFL football, week 7 of college ball, West Coast, East Coast, a lot of action, not only on the field, but up in the sky. This is all about how weather meets football and what it's going to do to change the overall game potentially as we look at the coaching, the overall player performance, and if you're on fantasy or betting on the game, how maybe this could give you the extra edge as we get closer to those games. So let's start off with the East Coast, though. On the Fox Weather stream, if you have time this weekend, you're going to want to check out our coverage. We are locked in on the Nor'easter. We got 10 people that are out deployed to show you the ground truth, the action as this all unfolds. But let's talk about what a Nor'easter is. This is something where you're going to have a powerful low pressure anywhere from northern Florida all the way up to New England. It's near the coast, and it's got this dominant wind out of the northeast. So what we know as of right now, coastal flooding is a big impact, but that strong wind gust is going to influence the overall games. And, of course, with that, you could expect some pretty intense rain at times. We're talking that heavy rain that, you may have to play through if there's no lightning, but it could be unstable enough that you could get some thunderstorms that could lead to a delay. This is going to play out Saturday and Sunday all up and down the East Coast. So that's why we got college ball and NFL locked in. So here's Saturday's game, really impacting northern Florida, the Carolinas. By Saturday evening, it's lifting north into the mid-Atlantic. And then by Sunday, it's truly anywhere from the Carolinas through New England. While we do have some NFL games, 2 of them that'll feel the impact. Let's start with NFL, and we're going to go out as the boys head over to take on the Panthers. This is going to be, of course, in Charlotte as you go to Bank of America Stadium. Notice this is going to be Sunday early in the afternoon. This could be the tail end of the Nor'easter for this game, but you're still looking at that rain with a precipitation impact. And that's a 7.9. You have the wind. That's potentially going to be coming in out of the north again. When you average this together, you got a medium risk of weather impact with a 4.8. What it looks like as of right now is that this is a system that's going to be lifting to the north, but you'll have those lingering showers. And why? For the second half, you have the potential of some strong rain. And if you look at this, if this is close, a close game into the fourth quarter, this could be a major influence on ultimately the end of this game when you're talking about that rain, because it's not just the intensity of that rain, but notice the wind is out of the north at 15 miles an hour. That could be means wind gusts 15, 20, 25 potentially here. Something to be watching for as well. We have somebody on the pod, of course, that loves them boys. All right, Dr. ROWI, what you feeling about this game? Overall, I was actually kind of surprised, first off, weather-wise, that it was the second half of the game and not the first half of the game that could be impacted by this nor'easter.
Well, the rain, of course, gets a little more stray further away from the center of low pressure, especially on that southwest side. Out of the 2 NFL games we're looking at, this is the one that I feel a little bit better that the conditions aren't going to be that terrible. And the ROWI reflects that here with the low ROWI for the majority of the hours, and the medium on those the final hour of the game. But that could, we still have a little bit of time. Check back in on Sunday for the latest forecast. That one should get your hourly right down on time. Now, for the actual game itself, the Panthers running game last week, former Cowboy Rico Dowdle, 200 yards on the ground, more yards rushing than passing. Dallas has had a great rushing attack and a great passing attack. It's been a great offense overall, but rain would slow down that offense led by Dak Prescott. And, the real amazing effort for the lack of, linemen hurt, CeeDee Lamb hurt.
They've been airing it out. Like, Dak's numbers has been ridiculous. And to that point, maybe there's a limitation if the rain sets up. If not, they're going to air it out yet again. They had they've been battling through the injuries. They've been doing it just fine. Ultimately, though, we talk about fantasy football or betting. I feel like with this game, with this type of lower impact, it doesn't really shift any of my focuses on that, right? Like, I don't think this is a big enough influence overall that you would say, hey, I need to tailor some of my expectations. What do you feel?
Yeah, and even if you do tailor your expectations, like the Cowboys have a very bad defense. The Panthers do not have the most amazing defense in the world either.
Yeah.
This is one where you should, you expect a lot of fantasy points. You expect to see that. Yes, we know that there's...
You going over then?
Well,
would you go on the over maybe? Because that's where that rain plays a factor. Because then it's like you could have like an explosion of offensive points in the first half, and then if we come in the second half and it slows down, that's where maybe there's that subtle influence with you looking at this overall.
Yeah, if anything, if you're going to do in the NFL, you have access to all these different prop bets.
Yeah.
In theory, in a full washout, you would go lower on your passing yards total, like for both teams, your receiving yards totals for all the individual receivers. In this case, it's not enough of a worry to really shut that down with how good the Cowboys' offense is and how bad their defense is.
Sure.
So we shouldn't expect anything too crazy with that. Now, we do know that Dak Prescott does fall in line with the statistical average where his stats decrease in rain. Now, those rain games are with rain at the start of the game. With this depiction of the forecast, with rain coming in a little bit later, this actually wouldn't be classified as a rain game in the historical data, even if we do get that in the second half. But it's still something to keep in mind. And anecdotally, as a Cowboys fan, I know that Dak has struggled in the rain in the past, but it's also not cold. It's a little bit milder.
Yeah, this is a good game, and just kind of warm up on the road. As you had mentioned, there's multiple games up here. This one we feel a little bit better about overall what we are going to see. Now we'll take you to the other one. This is heading up towards Baltimore. We have a little more of that action that's ongoing, of course, as you have the Rams heading over to the Ravens. And the big thing about the Ravens so far, of course, is they're injury prone too. You got Lamar Jackson. He's got a hammy. And do you put him back out there? Because you got a bye week the following week. So it's in a great expectation. You would want to rest him this week and next week to make sure he's fully healed. And I think with this type of rain, you also don't want to risk him slipping and making that hammy even worse. So look at the precipitation impact. Baltimore, well north of Charlotte, they're going to be feeling more of the influence of this nor'easter as it dives inland on Sunday, and still is a big impact, not only rain-wise, but with that wind impact. Overall, it's a medium risk of weather impact. Let's bring in the GOAT yet again. So when you're looking at this, overall, Matthew Stafford, their offense, Puka Nacua, they've been solid here. I feel like they're going to be able to do well. But then you start looking at the Ravens. If they had to depend on anybody, you'd say Derrick Henry is not a bad guy to maybe depend on.
No, absolutely. Baltimore badly needs this to be a mucky game because without that, they're kind of in trouble right now. This is
their
team
defense
that's been reeling. Their defense has been a mess, and they can use any help they can get with depressing the Rams' passing attack. But really, like, the Ravens need to rely on their run game. They need the run game to be the focus here with Derrick Henry. Even Justice Hill is a good backup. Yeah. If they're able to go and, like, the rain gives an assist to that Ravens defense and able to suppress those, it makes you feel a little bit better about them.
Yeah, and something interesting about this, too, is that Matthew Stafford's known to have a rocket arm, right? And typically that's a really good thing, especially in windy games, you could fight through it. But on rain games, you actually want a softer ball because if you're throwing it that hard and you're throwing a missile and it's already a little bit slippery, it makes it difficult at times. So, and Matthew knows this, right? He's been in the league for so long, but it's that subtlety of that adjustment there. But what happens if you have the combination of both? Because we are talking about a nor'easter. Right now, the winds are out in northeast, 15 miles per hour. That's sustained. So that is going to be that annoying rain that is coming in horizontal. It's getting in every nook and cranny. It's fighting its way into the stadium. And I think it plays a bigger factor than what we're showing right now. I think medium is a good threshold. I think depending on how fast this nor'easter moves, this could even get elevated with that intensity out of the wind. Because once you start factoring in wind gusts north of 2025, and that's going to be a constant, then you'd have a big high risk of weather impact to high ROWI, something we'll be watching closer to kickoff. We've talked a lot about the NFL level, right? But now I want to show you what's going to happen as we take it over to the college ball and we start still talking about those ones that are on the East Coast that could be impacted. Remember, college is on Sunday and on Saturday, I should say. And so on Saturday, we're expecting the nor'easter to be sitting in the southeast, and that's right where this game is with Coastal Carolina. They're hosting the Warhawks out of northern Louisiana. So as we get into this game, and Jared, we're looking at this here, this is the one I think has the biggest risk of weather impact and ultimately the biggest impact on the players, because we talk about this oftentimes. The NFL has studied it so much. The coaches respect what the weather can do, and the guys have the adaptability that they could battle this. But when you're talking about this class of football, which is no shade towards these teams, but it's a different tier, this has such a bigger type of impact on each and every player, and ultimately your playbook, what you even feel confident putting out there when you go in for the huddle. This is where you start thinking about, all right, let's keep it easy, simple, and try to gain some type of momentum.
Yeah, and with everything, it slops everything up. Your entire offensive game plan is completely affected, especially at the college level.
Yeah.
You expect to see more fumbles, and more fumbles causes more chaos on the game because whoever recovers those fumbles will have a huge swing on their ability to win the game. So this is one where you're really thinking spread-wise, you kind of want to stay away from a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, if you're thinking about, again, your passing totals, those are the things that you see the most falling down. Kicks are going to be far harder to do if you're able to live look at kicks. Like you should expect to see like a reduced field goal range. They're probably not going to even attempt field goals as far away because of the inaccuracy. And in the special teams games we saw last week in the Michigan State-Nebraska game, and this is compounded even more by the rain. The punting game, if you are on the side of the field where the wind is in your face, punting is really not going to help you all that much, and that's a huge advantage to whatever team has the wind at their back at that quarter, 100%. Even with the rain.
To your point, I don't even know if they attempt a field goal over 40 yards in this because of the rain aspect, right? Because the snap to the hold, that's a big question mark already. And then, you're going into the wind. It's going to be so erratic there. And by the way, this is Saturday night in Conway, South Carolina. So a good one to show you that there's different thresholds for obviously what we consider as a high, medium, or low, but then even the caliber of teams, there is a different type of overall influence on what would happen as well. Let's take it out to the Pacific Northwest as we start looking at some of that college ball that will continue on. So here is the Pacific Northwest. We got some fronts that are going to be moving through. The I-5 corridor is locked in with a bunch of rain. Notice in Central Oregon, you have Eugene, and that's where we're going to be heading to the biggest maybe matchup of the entire weekend as we take a look at, of course, the Indiana Hoosiers. They're going to be going out to the Oregon Ducks. This is at Autzen Stadium there, and this is going to be Saturday afternoon. You got a ranked matchup, right? So 7 versus 3. You have really great momentum, and really what you're trying to do at this standpoint, as Jared, we bring you back in on this, is ultimately you want to come out of here with a W. It doesn't matter how it looks. You just want a W because you're trying to build up that resume to make it into the playoff. And both of these teams are high-octane offenses. You and I talked about this earlier in the week. And truly, when we're looking at this forecast, I think it actually improved a little bit for them. Overall, they're still going to have rain, but I think this is the type of rain that you can play through, except for like one quarter. We're showing the third quarter right now. It could be any of these quarters, though, that really set up that it's going to be maybe a little more difficult for you to execute everything you want. You make those adjustments. But for the most part, I think with these teams, you see that when you and I were looking at the stats, Oregon had over 200 yards more passing than rushing, but they're that explosive offense, right? They're that offense that you just got a bunch of speedsters on the field. I don't know if that slows them down in this ultimately because of the rain rate being a little less, but then you go over to Indiana and they look balanced with their run and pass. And they look solid on both aspects of that too. It's not like you'd say, okay, well, there's a weakness there. These are just really two good teams going to be battling out with a little bit of slippery conditions ultimately.
Yeah, and this one has improved since we looked at it earlier in the week. The big thing to note is that the ROWI scale is a lower end medium with 3.8. I've been monitoring this over the week. We've actually even dipped down to 3.0, which is the very high end low.
Yeah.
At some way, the ROWI scale goes from 0 to 10 to keep in mind. So at this point, we're at the stage where we're expecting some rain during the game. We're expecting it to be somewhat impactful. But is it going to be something where the teams can't perform at all? Because you can have games where you have like a lighter rain, but they're able to go through. We're kind of in the middle on this. This is something that I still expect to see. And Steve, you jump in when you want to too. Like a decrease in passing production, because that's just what you see over time, over many, many games. Yeah. And out of anything, like both teams are fairly well balanced. Like Indiana has been more balanced this season than Oregon has. Oregon on paper is the more talented team, though Indiana is probably underrated talent-wise by those metrics. Yeah,
I would say I actually genuinely think this does benefit Oregon because of that explosiveness we talked about, but also because you live in this, right? This is typical weather. Like this is what you expect for the Pac Northwest. And so it's one of those things that like, yes, you've practiced in this, you know what it's like, but as you're going throughout your day, you're going to classes to and from school and all this stuff, you're living in that rain, so you don't feel uncomfortable. Now, I'm not saying Indiana's never experienced rain. Of course they have. But it's a difference when it's like innate to you and it's just kind of a background noise. And then it's another one where you're like, okay, we got to prep for this because we don't see this all the time. So
Well, the one thing
ultimately,
I do want to say, Steve, on this is that the transfer portal has changed the game a lot. In Oregon, this is a vastly different roster than last year's team that was the number one seed in the college football playoff last year.
That's a good point.
Like unlike in the past years of college football, that advantage is not as strong as it used to be in terms of being used to the conditions.
Yeah, no, that's a great point you bring up. I keep struggling with that transfer portal. It's a good point because it does. It's like there's so many things that historically make sense, and then now it's like you have so many different adjustments that honestly the transfer portal can be detrimental early in the season, and we've seen it with the AP top 25, like how much movement there's been because we're going off of historical stuff, and you can't measure it by that anymore because there's just so much turnover. That is a great analysis, Jared. All right, let's talk more. We have another game in this area of Oregon that we're going to get to here, and we're going to show you as the Wake Forest Demon Deacons head over to Oregon State Beavers. This is in Corvallis, Oregon, and a very similar dynamic as we chalk this one back up. It's going to be the rain. Maybe there's a little bit of a wind impact, but primarily it's going to be the rain. Notice this game, though, is in a different spot where now you could start to see the rain lingering around longer, or at least the heavier of the rain is around longer. And this goes back to what we were talking about on the East Coast. You have a different caliber of team. I know we're still talking college ball. You had top 10 teams that are doing really good, and they've got the momentum. And then you have, Oregon State, I don't know if they know what's going on right now. There's been major struggles, and that happens at times. And then you have Wake Forest, but they're traveling all the way across the country. So that in itself, that jet lag and everything coming into that area. I'll tell you this, though, what's interesting, Jared, I think even if the Demon Deacons were at home, we'd have them on the list because of the nor'easter. So it's kind of a funny, there's no way to avoid the weather in this matchup no matter where you decided to play.
I was thinking the same thing. And in this one, especially with teams that are a little bit worse, you do expect to see the ball being put on. Compared to Indiana.
No.
You expect the ball to be put down on the ground a little bit more, with the rain helping with that. In terms of who's going to win, a lot of the time it's going to be determined the random bounces of those fumbles in these games. So again, that's something to probably stay away from specifically. In terms of point totals, you probably see it's similar to the Oregon game where you have that rain. It's moderate. It's not expected to be like a complete downpour during the game. So you should be able to see the team still move the ball decently, but these are less talented squads, less cohesive squads. You expect to see less in pass and production again, and you probably expect to see a lower score than you otherwise would be in perfect conditions.
Yeah, just naturally looking at this, I think it's going to be a low score game, and I think the turnovers are something to watch for, especially if you're looking for prop bets or something. That might be something interesting to watch. Okay, we're going to stay on the West Coast for this one too, and we're going to nerd out for a moment and show you some of the weather that's happening. We have a lot that's happening in the EPAC. EPAC stands for Eastern Pacific. You got Priscilla and you got Raymond right behind that, and really what all this means is for us in the Four Corners region, you're going to have tropical moisture. But remember, this is a desert arid climate. It only takes a half inch or maybe an inch of rain for major flooding concerns. But that can also be said for teams there. They're not used to playing in this type of humid and wet condition. That's another aspect of this is even the humidity will play a factor because, this is usually a dry heat. Notice the rain. This is called the QPF or how much expected rain out of this. You got southwestern Colorado, Durango, Telluride. They're getting a big influence because of the mountains. But then you go down into Arizona, and that's where the games are going to be played. And you're looking at widespread 3 to 5 inches of rain. Let's talk more about the overall expansion of this because we do see even the Great Basin. You have Utah getting influenced by that. So we have a game there that will take you to Salt Lake City, seeing some thunderstorms. There's enough instability there that far north that you could actually get some delays out of this as well. So we're going to start off with this matchup here where the BYU Cougars, they go down to Arizona to the Wildcats. This is in Tucson, Arizona. So by the way, that is actually in southeastern Arizona where you had a 3 to 5 inch threshold for this. So this is going to be widespread rain, Jared, and I think you as the mastermind behind this has got to love to see that it's not just one factor, it's everything that's got to get filled up here when you're looking at the risk of weather impact.
Yeah, in this case, the southwest monsoon surge, and technically we're away from monsoon season. This is functionally a late season extension of that. When you get these recurving tropical cyclones from the Eastern Pacific, you have that risk that is including the lightning risk with this. That's the key factor to have in mind, is that the lightning risk can happen and you could have delays for a very long time with the amount of moisture in the air. And the other factor is like when the lightning goes away, the lightning delay lasts long enough so that the rain is like slowed down a bit and the field is, while wet, has kind of like not been torn up? Or is it to the point where you have rain on the field and players are playing through the rain with like the lightning having died down? If the latter happens, that is a far greater impact on the game. If the former happens, you have that delay, which is fairly likely at this point. You have to deal with it. But when you get to the game itself, not quite as bad.
Yeah, when you get back out there, it's all about that momentum. So then you and I have talked about this almost each and every week. It favors the home team. You just feel a little bit more comfortable, especially with extended delays or multiple delays. You feel like you can get back into rhythm. Another thing that we really can't highlight overall, but we can talk about broadly, is the wind impact, because you'll see it seems like a relatively low threshold where you're talking about 5 to 10 miles an hour. But these thunderstorms have outflow boundaries. That's a micro scale event, though. So you really can't pick it up on the models with any certainty. But if a storm does come within 8 miles, you trigger that delay, but you can get a 50, 60 mile per hour gust out of that. Now, remember we were talking at the top, that is a nor'easter. That is a wind-driven event. That is a macro scale, a synoptic event. You can measure the wind because you know it's going to be there, and that's going to be easily reflected. This is something that's very, very difficult to pick up on. It's an hourly by hourly type of development, and why we encourage you, we have the Fox Weather app. It's free to use. It's in the palm of your hand. If you love this team, you're watching, you're betting on it, whatever it is, you can pull up that radar and you can actually draw it out 2, 3, 4 hours in advance, and you can kind of measure it closer to kickoff what that likelihood of not only the lightning and the delay, but the wind impact overall for this. As of right now, we're just showing you in a broad view, the lightning is going to be the biggest concern, and you got plenty of thunderstorm activity, not even just for this game. We'll show you another game that we're going to be out west here as well. So this was a Utah team coming down to Arizona. Watch what we have now. We have a Arizona team that's going up to Utah, and it's the same type of dynamic. This is going to be the Sun Devils. They're ranked, obviously the top 25. They're 21. They're going to Salt Lake City. They're going to be taking on the Utes here. But the big thing with this, the only way to survive and stay ranked is, of course, throwing up W's. And Jared, we see that is really tough in college football to have that consistency, and maybe having a team that's at home with a lot of instability and a high risk of weather impact, maybe that's the upset alert for the Utes, or at least that's what they're hoping for as they're watching this weather kind of set up.
Yeah, Utah has had a very disappointing season so far. They started the season, they were ranked at least at one point, and they haven't had the season they've hoped for at the moment. But there's still a decent amount of talent in theory on this team. It's something that we're having even the delay, you're comfortable in your home locker room. That's something that can help you out a lot. And for this one, we're expecting to see more so rain during the game, which can slopping the whole thing up.
But to you, they got talent on the team. This is how you right the ship. This is how you even out the season, or at least you rebound on the season and build some momentum. So we'll be watching that game closely. What an incredible bonus episode, right? We're getting up against the clock. We're going almost into OT right now because we're dishing it out. But we want to hear from you every week. We do a Tuesday, Wednesday podcast. It airs at 5 p.m. Eastern, wherever you get your podcast. We'll then post them on social media. And then we do a bonus episode like this. And that's truly driven by your conversation. So you can reach out to me at Weatherbender because I stand on business. Jared's a little scared. He doesn't want to give out his handle.
Jared C. Maloney.
All right, you're at Jared C. Maloney, and you can chirp at him and let him know. What do you think we need to talk about next, right? Either way, enjoy the weekend. Come over and visit us on the stream. Jared's going to be out in the field. He may be getting blasted, pressure washed, and that's just fun in and of itself to see the wet stash make the screen. So make sure you come check us out. If not, have a fun and safe weekend, and we'll see you next week for another round of the ROWI Report.